Hi guys, how to stay motivated, part 6. Okay, Stefan Ramsey here from SXT Fit. Okay, number one, I'm born in Australia and my parents are from South Africa. And I've lived a pretty easy life, you know, other than the normal struggles of growing up, which we all experience. I've lived a pretty good life. My family, you know, they had a good life as well, but they also had their own challenges. And one of the things that I always talk about with my dad is the level of urgency and the level of, you know, responsibility, and also the era and the time. And what does that mean in regards to motivation? Well, what it means is, one thing I've learned is that desperation is also going to be a good motivator for you. And if you're someone like myself, you're a middle-class kid growing up in Australia in this beautiful country with all these opportunities, one of the things that's very difficult to do is to increase that level of urgency. And that's because, you know, I can end up in poverty, I can end up homeless, but the reality is in Australia we have a great medical system, we have Medicare, we have hospitals, we've got schools, we've got support lines. And especially someone like myself whose family comes from a different culture and a different place where, you know, certain things such as Medicare, they might exist, but they don't really exist, if you know what I'm saying. So I've had this different perspective in my life where I've had the opportunity to have people who have lived through a different life basically give me the lowdown on how bad it can really get. So growing up in Australia, even though we do have lots of problems, at the same time, you know, there are people out there in far worse situations, in far worse places, and you know, they really don't have any food. You know, and in Australia there's the pandemic and people are losing their jobs, and I'm not trying to say that it's all rainbows and butterflies, but you know, at the same time we do live in this beautiful place called Australia for a reason, and it is beautiful for a reason. And as I said, Medicare, you know, the health, the support, all the things that we have, I've never gone a day in my life without food, without water, without shelter. And so the point about staying motivated is that with all these opportunities and all these choices, sometimes I can become paralyzed by all the choices and all the options. And you might have felt this yourself, where you could travel, you could go to uni, you could become a tradie, you could just slack off and play video games. You could do whatever you want, because the level of urgency, it's not life and death. In some places in the world, you're gonna get the job or you're gonna die. You know, you have to hand out 1,000 resumes, because the other option is you're not eating tonight. I haven't had to experience that, thankfully, but one of the downsides is any level of urgency in my life, any level of motivation, it's gonna have to come from me. It's not gonna come from the environment. Earthquakes, tsunamis, yeah, maybe a bit of pandemic here and there, but I don't live in the ghettos. I don't live in an environment where there's hundreds of thousands of people starving and I have to eat. You know, I have to do this. That doesn't exist for me. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it's highly likely that you're someone similar to myself. You're a middle class person, you know, you got money for this, maybe you're not mega rich, maybe you're not mega poor, you know. But for people like myself, one of the difficult things we do is to find that level of motivation and that urgency that's gonna take us to the next level. My family's got me to a certain level, but it's up to me to get to that next level. How do I do it? Well, one of the ways that I'm trying to do at the moment is to increase my level of urgency by taking on the responsibility that my family, they've laid down the foundations, okay? They've laid the concrete down. It's up to me now to use the wood and to build the frame, okay? To put the bricks up, to put the mortar on, to tile the roof. That's my responsibility, even though I don't want to accept it, because I don't want to do extra work. Who does want to do extra work? Not me, but that's my responsibility. And that's what I'm trying to, you know, lay on myself. It's not easy. It's not easy to do more work than you need to do. That's the thing that I really want to, you know, talk about in this video, motivation. What's the motivation for you to to get a six-pack, to eat the foods, to go to the gym? What's the motivation? Well, unless you're dying, the only motivation is going to come from you. It's going to come from inside. And that's really difficult. And a lot of people, you know, when we talk about, for instance, suicide rates are very high in wealthy countries. And there's many different reasons for that. But one of the reasons is, what they talked about on the Joe Rogan podcast is no one else to blame. You know, we live in this great country that there's no one else to point to when shit goes wrong. Well, hang on a second. Who else is it going to be down to? It's going to be down to numero uno, because we live in this place of opportunity. And sometimes all the opportunities and all the privileges can actually be a downside, because we kind of get bogged down on which direction we should go. And that can hinder our motivation, especially it does with me. You know, sometimes I feel like, well, why don't I do this? Why don't I just travel? Why don't I just kick the soccer ball all day? I'm not going to die from poverty because I've got this Medicare stuff that's going on, you know? Other people in other situations, they're not thinking like that. My dad and my mum, they weren't thinking like that because they really could die from poverty, you know what I'm saying? Not that it was that bad, but you get what I'm saying. So one of the ways to stay motivated is we have to self-inflict. We have to place responsibility on ourselves, even if we don't want to. And so I'm working towards the responsibility that it's my job now to carry on the legacy that my family started from being immigrating to Australia. That's my job. It's tough, and it's difficult to take on extra responsibility, but that's the way that I'm going to find the urgency. The other way to find urgency is to have some what we call non-negotiables. So what I'm trying to do at the moment is, I'm the type of person who I really like to do anything. I could play soccer, I could skate, I love doing everything. But at the same time, if I do all those things, something else is going to pay the price. So now what I'm trying to do is work into these non-negotiables that I'm going to have to see my friends, and I want to as well, but I also like doing my own shit as well. And have to see my family, have to do certain things, have to go to the gym, and those are my non-negotiables. And then once I put those into my diary, I can figure out how much time I have left to do the things that I want to do, or other things in my life. And what that does is it creates that sense of urgency that if you have to do these 10 things every day or every week or every month, that means that it limits your time, and when it limits your time, it increases the urgency and the efficiency that I'm trying to use the other time with, if that makes sense. Almost like, if you go on holiday, you kind of feel paralyzed because you could do anything because you've got 50 hours a day. But when you close in those gaps a little bit more and you kind of shrink your day, then you have to be more specific with your choices and kind of be like, you know what, I have to do this because I only have 2 hours. And that's what I'm trying to do. Again, all of these videos that I make here, one thing I don't try and do is profess to be some guru. All I'm trying to do is express what I'm thinking and what I'm trying to do. I'm not saying I'm going to get there. I'm not saying I'm going to be this amazing person. What I'm saying is I'm going to try to. And hopefully in these videos, if you're watching it, you can say, oh, you know what, actually that makes sense, or actually he's bullshitting, or actually I might use that, So hopefully that helps today, guys. That's How to Stay Motivated Part 7, about increasing urgency, taking on responsibility, and seeing how I can become more motivated to achieve those goals by figuring out how to manage my time and how to block in the time with those non-negotiables, so it creates that sense of urgency. Because at the end of the day, I live in this beautiful country of Australia. If there's no urgency, there's no urgency. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you've been through it. There's no wars going on. There's no one's dying from poverty on a 20 million people scale. It's not like that. The level of urgency, it's going to come from me. It's going to come from you. It's not going to come from a world war or extreme poverty in Yemen where there's hundreds of thousands of people going through famine. That's not Australia on the massive scale. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying for the average person like myself, the motivation is going to come from numero uno. And it sucks sometimes, but that's the only way to do it. So hopefully that helps today, guys. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I'm going to be posting these videos as much as I can every Monday, 3 p.m. Don't forget to click that subscribe button on your bottom right hand or left hand side of the screen. It's Stefan Ramsey. Peace be upon him.